This is Rob Tepper for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined. We're here in Saudi Arabia in the immediate aftermath of Anthony Joshua's unanimous decision win over Andy Ruiz. With me, I've got Barry Hearn. Barry, talk to me about that fight. Anthony Joshua regains the unified heavyweight titles.
Well, it was a shutout fight, wasn't it, really? I mean, it was a masterclass. I think Rob McCracken, AJ's top trainer, and AJ himself came up with a plan that was faultless. So I can't really describe it more than that. Ruiz is a good fighter, and he's dangerous if you have a tear-up with him. You know, last time in Madison Square Gardens, AJ had a bit of a tear-up and came off second best. This time he just boxed his ears off and won on a virtual shutout.
AJ's made his career, or made his name in his career as a knockout artist, an exciting fight. This one went the distance, but in a way, was this his most complete performance so far?
Well, it was the best way to guarantee a win. I mean, and that was a guaranteed win. But you know, when boxing's about levels, when you start off especially as a heavyweight, you are a heavy-handed heavyweight. You're going to knock out most people because you're just a different level to them. As you get towards the top echelon of boxing, you know, the Joseph Parker was a points win. You know, some of the fights, even Molina, I think, went 8 or 9 rounds. You know, so you're learning all the time. And tonight he adjusted his style to take into account the fighter he was fighting. He didn't fight AJ fight. He fought winning fight. And it was, I don't think you can ever relax in boxing because you're only ever one punch away from a disaster, but as relaxed as you could be, I couldn't see any way during the fight that Ruiz, unless AJ stopped concentrating and stopped moving, I couldn't see a way in. And you always say you've got a puncher's chance, but if you can't hit the target, the puncher's chance goes as well.
A lot of people expected to see Anthony Joshua on the back foot tonight, which is eventually what we saw. But in the first round, he landed a very stiff, very sharp right hand towards the end of the round to cut Andy Ruiz. How important was it for Anthony Joshua to stamp his authority early in the fight?
I think you're right. I mean, if you look at the tail of each round, there was generally one semi-concussive punch per round, which put the seed of doubt in Ruiz. In other words, if Ruiz doesn't think he's got anything to fear, he trundles forward, walks in and eventually gets you back against the ropes and unloads. But when you put the doubt in someone's mind, and I think it started in the first round, as you quite rightly said, it puts the other bloke's game plan off course because the brain is saying, don't go too close because he's powerful and that hurt. So I think that, as I say, the tactics were perfect, but there was no doubt that the concussive punches, and Ruiz took all of them very well. I mean, I know he got a cut, but he can take a punch, that boy. It was enough to stop Ruiz being too ambitious.
What did you make of Ruiz's performance? Obviously, he raised a few eyebrows yesterday on the scales when he came in very heavy. By his own admission, he said that he may have enjoyed life as heavyweight champion a little bit too much. Were you disappointed in his performance, or was it Anthony Joshua making him look that way?
I was obviously delighted with his performance, and Anthony Joshua who did make him look that way because there was still always the fear factor that, you know, another round banked, but stay away because this guy's dangerous. But, you know, fighters, when they win a title and they come from sort of fairly humble background, like Ruiz, it's a big change in your mental approach, not just to the fight game, but to life. The natural reaction when you've had years of going without things is to enjoy yourself. Some champions go straight back into the gym and are ambitious to go forward and create a legacy. And Ruiz went out to parties. And although I think he played a few games with his weight yesterday, there's no doubt that he was probably a stone heavier than he wanted to be, to give him, because he's got very good feet and you don't want to be too heavy on your feet, you know. So I wasn't disappointed in his performance. I think I understood his performance, but it was compounded by the fact that AJ boxed to such a level that even if he had been the very best Ruiz you could get, he still wasn't going to win that fight.
In the post-fight interview, Andy Ruiz kind of gate-crashed AJ's post-fight interview, calling for a third fight. Would you have any interest in a third fight?
Well, not at the moment, obviously. I mean, the heavyweight division it's got an abundance of talent in. Anthony's got at least 2 mandatories queuing up. There's always the thought of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury eventually one day when they sort out their own little domestic scrap. So I don't think Ruiz is in a position that would be attractive to us or to our broadcasters or even the fans. But whereas there are a number of other fights out there which maybe justifies getting rid of a mandatory, maybe justifies, you know, having another I think AJ will probably look to go back to knocking people out next fight. Depending on who he's fighting. The styles make fights, as everyone always tells you, and an intelligent fighter has to adjust his style to counteract the style and strength of his opponent. And tonight was a masterclass of doing exactly that.
You mentioned Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. By all accounts, they're going to be having their rematch early next year. Considering what we saw tonight, relative shutout performance from Anthony Joshua. In your opinion, does that put him back at the top of the trio heavyweight division?
I mean, it's difficult for me because I'm not a fighter and I'm not a trainer. So other people can give you a better answer to that. For me, I deal with commercial, and he's way so far above everyone else in the commercial valuation. And we talk about 1, 2 and 3 on ability. Other people can make that decision on commercial value. Anthony Joshua is at a level that if Wilder or Fury went to his level, it's so high above their level they'd probably run out of oxygen.
Are we going to be subjected to more kind of public negotiations now? They're dragged out with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder for the best part of a year. Now Anthony's got his belts back. Is that something that we can expect to see in the future?
I think it's boxing. There's always going to be people like you asking questions, and and there's always going to be fans saying we want to see. And I think we should embrace all of that, because that's what made this sport. That's what has revived this sport and the interest in this sport from the doldrums it was in a few years ago. Eddie's done a magnificent job, and obviously as his dad I'm very proud of him, but if I step back, I think there's a lot of people sharing that responsibility. AJ's been the flag bearer of British boxing. There isn't a 6-round fight in our country that hasn't a 6-round fighter that hasn't benefited from Anthony Joshua, because he just raised the platform and raised the perception of value in boxing. So protected, there's going to be lots of stories, because boxing is made up of stories, but the truth is, as always, it will be a very well controlled, matchroom led, Joshua fueled negotiations, because we bring so much more to the party than anyone else. I know that sounds a bit big-headed, but I'm talking in the world that I live in, which is commerciality. We're a very strong partnership and a very solid base.
Expecting a phone call from your old friend Shelley Finkel?
I'm always happy to receive phone calls from old friends, but I think they've got enough on their plate. Tyson Fury, Tyson Fury would look at the Ortiz fight and said Ortiz was probably 6 rounds going 7 rounds up when he walked onto a sledgehammer, and Tyson Fury will be quite confident that he wouldn't have walked into that punch because he's so difficult to hit. So who knows, but it's great for boxing, and the more the merrier. Dillion Whites out there, Rusyk's out there. Some of these Eastern European heavyweights are looking very, very strong, powerful. And they're all dangerous, and that's what makes boxing interesting, because if you knew the result of every fight, you would never buy a ticket, you would never tune in. And the fact is, tonight, we've hit record numbers all around the world, at a level that we've never even hit before ourselves, and the reason being because people weren't sure about the result, and that's a positive for not just Anthony Joshua, positive for the whole of the sport of boxing.
Final word on Dillion White, you've just mentioned him there. He made his return to the ring tonight. Made a little bit of hard work of it against Marius Fact, but how pleased are you to see him not only back in the ring but also with a win under his belt?
Yeah, listen, let's be honest. Dillion White's had a tough time. The UCAD drug thing and all that, and it's been in my view, it's been very, very poorly handled by the authorities, and I'm sure there'll be repercussions of that going forward. But he took that fight at very short notice because he wanted to. Until that was resolved, it's tough to fight. As soon as I want to get out straight away, and he'll tell you himself he was quite lethargic tonight. He also weighed probably 10, 12 pounds more than he wanted to weigh. No excuses, because Dillion White won the fight, but he probably made it harder than it should have been. But a win's a win. He's got the shadow of these ridiculous allegations against him out of the way. And his career moves on because he's one of the world's top heavyweights, and that's the business side of boxing.
Okay, well, Barry Hearn, always a pleasure catching up with you. Any final words? It's been some event here in Saudi Arabia. How have you enjoyed your time here, and will you be looking to come back anytime soon?
Who knows what the future holds? I never speculate, but I would be surprised if we didn't come back in some time. I think it's gone down very well within the kingdom. It has been some controversial remarks, of course, made by people, and that's the political side, not the boxing side. From a sporting thing, I think Anthony Joshua's performance tonight, the media attention that it generated, will have inspired youngsters in this country perhaps to do more with their lives as well. So, big plus, and I've enjoyed it every second of it.
Barry Hearn, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Cheers, Barry.